Perfect. I think we're live streaming now, so I will go ahead and welcome everyone to the POP Climate Leadership Conversations. This is actually our first conversation, our first leadership conversation of 2023. So we are thrilled to have Andy here with us to speak about POP Germany. And this series of POP leadership conversations are a tribute to our chief mentor. This project aims to strengthen youth leadership and explore the tactics that empower youth to take action and tackle the most pressing environmental issues that we face globally. And today, as I mentioned, our POP leadership conversation will be focused on leadership needed to create POP Germany, and we'll have the pleasure of speaking with Andy or Andreas Forsthövel. I hope I pronounced your last name right. If not, you can correct me. And I will go ahead and quickly introduce our speaker. Andy has been a teacher for over 10 years for students between 10 and 19 years old. He has traveled to various countries with his students for conferences and expositions, from the Future of Energy Expo in Kazakhstan in 2017 to the first World Sustainable Development Forum in Mexico. Andy is also interested in sports, traveling, and climate action works. He is married to a wonderful woman and has a beautiful son. And inspired to create an impact for future generations, he created and is the leader of POP Germany initiative, which we will talk about today. So with that being said, I would like to go ahead and ask you our first question today, Andy, which is, what does leadership mean to you?
Okay, Anna, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you for having me here. Muchas gracias. It's a very interesting question and a good opening question. What means leadership to you? So, as you said, right, I'm working as a teacher, and I think one of the main tasks for a teacher is try to make yourself needless. So, as I try to transport it to the POP movement team Germany, to the young students, it would be the answer to say, okay, I try to help them starting climate projects, CO2 saving projects, or projects to sensitize other young people for climate change, but then getting more and more in the background. So, and at the beginning, it is really that I'm working more from with the progress, I'm working more and more from the background until there is a point where I really have to say, if I'm realistic, I'm not needed here anymore, which is a little bit different maybe in the POP movement team in Germany. Maybe we can talk about that later, to other POP movement teams, because I have the situation that the students will leave me after a few years because they finished school, and a lot of them are not placed in the area around where the school is. And I'm still hoping for the day when the first come back and say, now I'm back again, I'm going to take over, or let's do it together, so that I really be completely in the background. So to say it in one sentence, what means leadership to you? Make it like this, that you are not needed after a special time anymore.
Thank you so much. I love your answer. And I think it really shows the type of teaching methods that you implement and how you empower the students to lead themselves once they have gained the experience. So thank you for answering that question. And I will hand it over to Ivan, who will be asking the next question. Oops, actually, sorry about that. We have Alice's question first, and then we'll go to you, Ivan. Sorry.
It's fine.
Hi. I want to ask, how did the POP movement in Germany start? I mean, what was the initial goal?
So it started crazy, to say it in one word. Anna mentioned at the beginning that I made a really crazy trip with my geography A-level course in 2017 to the Expo in Kazakhstan, which I never thought would become true. And the Expo was handling around the topic future energy. And it started with the visit of Mr. Pachori, so the father from Ash, from Dr. Pachauri. I had contact with a German engineer before because there was a conference handling around this future energy topic, and this German engineer, when we met there, we only knew us from emails. He said, "Come on, I have to bring you to a special person." So he took me in this VIP area. So, and I was dressed a little bit good for my circumstances, but it has been all with all the big people in this VIP area. And Dr. Ash said, "Hey, you are here. Let me tell you something about the pop movement. And if this is something for you, my idea, I will come to your school and held a lecture about climate change." And he did. A few months later, in 2017, he had a lecture in front of all students from the upper three grades, from the upper three classes. And this was the point when the pop movement Germany started. So 5 students out of my 17 said, "Now we're going to start a German group from the pop movement." And in the meantime, I think I have the 5th or 6th generation, but I'm still in contact with the first generation. And it's good to see that they, wherever they are now, try to do in their jobs sustainable, to make progress in their jobs about sustainable questions. Yeah.
Maybe we are all inspired at the right time. Thank you for sharing your response and for giving us the opportunity to be here.
Thank you so much, Andy. That was great. And now I will hand it over to Ivan for the next question.
Ivan, yes.
Thank you so much, Anna. The question is, what are some of the main challenges of leading kids in sustainability, and how do you overcome them? And how do you sensitize young people to promote climate-friendly behavior?
Okay. So I think one part of the question is already answered. As I said, I have to try that I'm not working as a teacher in my project. So they have to work alone, even if that means that I do a lot of work in the background. This is what I mentioned a few minutes ago. But leading the kids, what I learned is, if I have even, especially when I have a change in the staff, let me say it this way around, if new kids are coming, the main important thing for me is to start a project with them together, which will be successful. So if someone says, "Okay, I'm going to spend additional time in school for what topic ever," it has to be useful and it has to be successful. So what I'm always trying is not to start with a very big and long-running project, because I think young students need to have an idea and then have to have the success within the next weeks or month. And that would be fine, so that they get a very quick answer. "Hey, a few weeks ago, I had this idea. We made a special progress, and now there is the success," which is not so easy from time to time, because let me say it this way around, the low-hanging fruits at our school, we started with them because it was easy to make it realistic. And so I'm always trying for new ideas which are not so long running. As we are a state school, we have to work with many different institutions to get the okay, to get the money, and this can spend some time, which I'm not afraid of course. And your second answer was how to sensitize young people for climate-friendly behavior. I think maybe, Anna, it is possible that I can share my window for a second. So
of course.
Maybe
Philo,
you
could you
can
help us? Let me see.
Yes.
Can we make Andy co-host, please, Philo?
Yeah. Okay, should work. And now, so I hope you see the sustainability goals now. So
Yes, we can see it.
We're working in the area of the goals number 7 and 13, but what I wanted to show you is, oops, it was the wrong one. I know it's in German language, but we have 3 different ideas how we try to sensitize young people. It's the lower 3 ones. So the first idea is it's not adults sensitize young people, it's young people sensitize young people. The second one is what we never do is to what we call in Germany to keep the finger up, to say you have to do it like this. Please don't use the car for short treks. Please don't use the plane. What we try is always to create what we say in the German language, aha moments, so that the people getting surprised and get a feeling for that what they just did in climate change, in the climate change idea, and then we leave them alone so that they can decide themselves. Shall I do this again in future, or shouldn't I do this in future? And maybe I can show you a picture which shows you much better than all my words. Let me see. I had a few screenshots like this one. So this is what we do once a year. We have built, or we have thought about how to sensitize young people for the CO2 consumption, which is produced if they go by car for a short trip, which will be a trip to school maybe, or the trip to their football training exercise in the afternoon. And we're working with what we call weight models. So we can create the CO2 production which comes out of the car. If someone tells me twice a week I'm going to the football ground, which is so many kilometers, then we can place different weights on this weight, or we have backpacks, or we have weights that we can throw and people have to catch it. And now they don't have not only a number in their heads, which doesn't work, I think. So I knew the number 30 years ago, but now they feel it. They feel the weight, and it's this what we call aha effect, the surprising effect, which stays in their brain, I think, much longer than hearing or than just reading a number. And they're always very surprised if they hear that on the 7-kilometer trip by a normal car, so with fuel, that there will be 1 kilogram CO2. But the bigger surprise is if you give them the weights, or if they have to put it on the backpack and feel it. So that's what we always try. But then it's okay. Then we don't say, please don't go by car. I'm not a fan of this. So I had it in the geography books 30 years ago when I was a student. Please do not take the plane, or please do not buy so many trousers or whatever. I think the people have to decide with their feelings themselves. Thank you for this question. It was very interesting, and I'm glad to show you a little bit about that.
Thank you so much for your answer. It's an amazing approach. And I think, as you said, this is something that is going to stay with them for the rest of their lives. It's so different to just hear, but to live it, to experience it, and that way they can internalize it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's funny. So from time to time, we're standing with the pop movement team on a summer fair, let me say it this way. So we have a small tent and have the weight models. And when the young students take the adults from this summer event in the city center, they're crazy. So they come to me and say, this should not be possible. You have to be wrong, Mr. Teacher. Don't tell them so silly things. And I said, no, it's the real numbers. It's realistic.
Thank you so much, Andy, for your great answer, and also for the visuals. I think they really help us see more clearly what you're doing. Now I would like to hand it over to Philo for the next question.
Thanks, Anna.
So you've already showed us some pictures and described some of the activities. Can you tell us more about some of your recent projects that you've undertaken with the students and the results that you've seen from that?
Okay, this is I can do that. Yeah, very no problem, and I'm very happy to do this. Maybe I'm starting this again so that you can see my screen. And let me see. This way, so we have a homepage which is on German language, so we need to translate it in English one day. I'm not surfing about on the website because the connection is not so bad, but I've made a few screenshots about that. This is what you already know. So this is one of my favorite projects, which was one of the very first ones, and I tried to make it very short. We changed the copy in the stool, the copy paper, which sounds absolutely easy, and it is easy. And nobody knew in the stool why we had this white copy paper. The answer was, yeah, we have this special contract. It's cheaper. We have a contract with some who is going to sell us the paper, and around 800,000 copies, 800,000 sheets of paper we need a year in the stool. And then we asked for special paper which has less CO2, less water, and a few things more, which is the recycled paper. And if you see the table, I'm only show you one figure. This is the CO2 figure. It's the first row. Without losing any quality of life, with switching to recycling copy, it was 53% saving of CO2 on the stool, which is a big amount. It is around 2.6 tons of CO2, which is not produced anymore from this point on. And I love this project because nothing has changed. So the people were first a little bit irritated. Oh yeah, the paper is so dark. At the end, they come to me and asked me after a few weeks, why do we have this white paper again? I said, no, it's not the white paper. It's in the recycled one. So they don't have a feeling anymore for the white paper. Yeah. And I think this is important to show everyone, not only the students, that in a lot of examples, there is no losing of quality if you try to save CO2. Yeah, we have the same amount of papers that we need. We try to work this, but this is a different topic. And we have a big impact on the CO2 consumption of the stool. Another one is we won something. So we had a climate challenge, it was called, and we decided to put the money into a smart bench. So this is a bench where you can sit on the stool ground, but it's additionally a PV, so a solar energy station. You can put your mobile on it and can load it, which is not, of course, a big amount of saving, but we have around 800 students who are 4 or 5 hours in the stool every day. So, and they see this on the stool ground, which is continuously showing off. Okay, this is an important thing. It's important to care about renewable energy. Please help me or let me know if it's too long. I try to give a rough overview of some of the projects. Of course, not all. Another one, all the stool has changed. The classroom has changed a few years ago into smart boards. So we don't have this chalk boards anymore. There's still a small chalkboard. You see it on the left and on the right, but there's the smart board, and we got them. And we investigated a little bit if it's possible to do a different programming of the smart boards so that they switch off themselves if you don't need them after half an hour or something like that. They are switched off at the weekend and in the night. And this is things and nobody thought about. And it's once again not 1% of losing quality if the smart board is on the weekend off or it's in the night off. I I had a number for that. It's roughly 46%, so 50% lowering the energy and lowering the CO2, which means, on the other hand, a big saving of money for the city who runs our school and runs more than our school, or has several schools. And it's more or less the same with, you see this time programmed here. It's the same with, we have this special air cleaning system. We got them when Corona started, and they were running 24 hours, 24/7. And we asked at the city who runs our school if is it possible to switch them off, and they said, we don't know. We don't know if it's getting we have a problem with Corona then if they're not moving all around the time. And at the end, we had a few phone calls with the company who produced them and said, okay, 1 hour before they enter the room, 1 hour after you have left the room, then everything is fine. And that's what we do. It's once again, let me see, I put out the number. It's 49%. It's over 1,000 euros only at our school, saving money, and 50% saving CO2 and energy. And the city did this now with all the schools and all the kindergarten. So it's once again a very good example for doing something without losing energy. We have a drinking water station, and you can count the numbers when people put their bottle there. Instead of recycling a plastic bottle, there are CO2 emission numbers for that. I had a look on that. It's around, I didn't believe it, but it's around 70 grams, 70 grams of CO2 if you recycle a bottle, which is not bad at the end. It's better than throwing the bottle away and the bottle get burnt. But more or less all the students have now their own bottles and going to this drinking water stations. We have now over 5,000 refillings, and it's just good to see that it works. So there's a lot of different things. One last one maybe to which is, I think, a very special one for a school. So this is our copy room, and we have this big paper with the overview how many students are in which course. So I have 10 different courses. I can't learn the numbers, and in the courses there are students who are having their tablets who don't need to have a paper. So what we not only do is we have not only switched to recycled paper, we give them a continuously overview. We do it every 6 months to have the new numbers from the courses, that the teachers can, in the copy room, can see immediately how many copies do I need, because the number which is used most on the boards to put in the numbers is the 3 and the 0, because with 30 copies you're always fine. There will be no more than 30 students in the class, but it's not good if you only need 27 or if you only need 25 and you always put in 30 copies. So this is a very small number of amount for a sheet of paper. It's roughly around 3 grams for saving 1 sheet of paper of recycled copy paper. But we have something around 800,000 copies a year, so it will make an impact at the end. Yeah. So this was a small overview over the projects that we're doing at school.
Thank you very much. I think these unique approaches that you've said are not only powerful examples, but they also positively influence and inspire the students in the school to think about unique problem-solving methods that they can come up with in their day-to-day lives. So I think that's an important lesson. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Philo. I completely agree. And I love seeing how engaged all the young people are. I think it must be really motivating for them to see their work translated into impact within their school. I would now like to hand it over to David, who will be helping us with the next question.
Thanks, Anna. The question is, what are some of the main challenges faced by school-related climate projects?
okay, yeah, there are some real challenges. So it's a little bit sometimes it's a little bit complicated to work when you have ideas, because there are so many different institutions or persons who decide what is happening in school. If it goes to things like, am I allowed to put a drinking water station there? We're now trying to optimize our waste, our waste management, because too much paper is still getting burned with what we call the rest waste. So you have to talk about the city. You have to talk about a special department of a city who's in charge for the school. You have to talk to the headmaster. You have to talk with the caretaker. You have to talk with the cleaning company who does the cleaning in school. And this could sometimes be getting into a long-term project. And I'm always very fascinated when I following the projects in the international pop movement, WhatsApp pop movement group. And then I say, okay, there is someone who had an idea and who tries to make this special idea bigger and bigger and bigger. And for me, it's always to search those ideas who can be turned into reality very quick, to hold the people, that they are not getting demotivated. And of course, what is complicated and maybe different to your work, I don't know, we can talk about this maybe, is I always know that my students will leave me within the next 2 or 3 years. So we now started to win students for the pop movement team from the very lower, in the very low classes, and I hope that they will stay now for a longer time. Until now, it was always net. So the last 3 or 4 years, if someone was happy to help in climate change projects, then he's staying with me for 3 or 4 years. And we never had a problem until Corona to create new generations who are coming up. And I started completely new a few months ago. So I had 2 or 3 ladies who said, okay, we're still with you. But I used to have around 15, 20 people. So the speed of school and the knowledge, the lessons, mathematics, geography, English, whatever, what the students have missed during Corona, even if we teachers gave our best with online lessons, is something which helps not to find new members. Because I have a little bit the feeling young people do think twice a little bit. Shall I do something additional to all the school stress I already have? I hope that this will change maybe within the 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 years, if Corona is through with everything and people have finished their school. But to put it in 1 or 2 points, I always have to find new people, because it's always a limited period of time. And I have to find ways of do shortcuts in the big projects in which a lot of different departments and institutions and persons have something to say. And this is maybe a little bit different to other pop movements projects. I don't know.
Thanks for answering. It's very interesting that.
Thank you, Andy. That was really interesting to hear, and I can imagine that COVID was really a big challenge, because you have done so many projects in person that it must have really been difficult to bring kids in afterwards. Now we have our final question before our conclusions, which will be asked by Drisha.
Hi, Andy. It's so nice to see you today and hear more in depth about all the activities that Pop Germany is conducting. What I would like to ask you is, how do you measure the impact of your projects, and what are some of the main points you take into consideration while that impact calculation is done?
So it's two information in my answer. The first one is we really try to measure, to calculate the impact of our action on the CO2 consumption, which is saved by this project. In most of the cases, this is possible, and it's in most of the cases additionally very nice that I can say we're not only lowering the CO2 amount, we additionally lowering the money that we have to pay for something special. So let me say it this way around. But it's a little bit the question, like, who is a successful teacher? Is it the one who has got the good results in the classworks, or is it the one who you met 10 years later in the supermarket, and you go to him and say, hey, thank you once again for the lesson or for the kind of work that you do. And the people from the first generation or the second generation who already finished their trainees now and who are working in companies, I'm still in contact with one of those first generation, came to Kazakhstan and came to Mexico to the WSEF. And this is something that you can't measure, I think. They tell me, so there was one lady who said, okay, I asked my future company, what are your plans in sustainability? Otherwise, I'm not going to apply in your company. So there was a young man who gave me a phone call and said, okay, I'm now the sustainability manager in my small office. So we are a team of 5 people, and they don't have someone who cares about sustainability. It's me, the youngest one, who just started to work. And I think this is something which I can't measure with CO2 numbers, but maybe this is the most or the highest target that you can try to reach, is that people, when they left your team, that they still care about climate action, and maybe trying to start their own ideas to become realistic as far as climate action work is concerned. On the other hand, I see everyone says we don't have so many time left because the 1.5 degree target is more or less not realistic at this time. So it's good to know that my first generation still works on, but we don't have another 20 or 30 years. So it's a little bit in between. But to help people or to sensitize people that they do their own thoughts and try to make their own climate action work projects and become into reality. I think this is something which is very good and which I can't measure in numbers. So it's a two-way answer.
Thank you so much. I think this is a very important point because until unless we measure, we are not able to communicate about the impact that we have created, and it serves as a piece of knowledge for others who are on the receiving end to actually begin to think in that direction where they can also take those steps. So no matter how small it is and how big it is, it should be communicated, and calculating impact and simplifying it in this manner is, I think, very good to serve the purpose. So thank you so much for your response. Thank you. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you so much for the great question, Drisha, and for your answer, Andy. I can't imagine how proud you are to have some of your first generation students come back to you and thank you for everything they learned there, because I think it really puts into perspective how you really put that seed in for them to be interested in environmental protection for the rest of their lives. And I also want to thank you for giving us the time to ask you these questions and for you to show us all the projects that you're doing in Germany. I think it'll be really interesting for everyone who watches it either right now or later to get some ideas of how they, as students, can all have a big impact in their schools, right? So, for example, I thought the idea of changing the copy paper within the school was a really great idea that could be implemented in many different places. So I hope everyone who's listening can take initiative and make these types of changes in their own schools. And yeah, I would just like to thank you again for your time and thank Andres, Drisha, Filo, Eduardo, Sam, and Ivan for being here with us today as well.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. It was an honor to be here. And yeah, muchas gracias. Nach Mexico, Danyaba, nach Indian. So I hope I didn't forget something. Samuel, where are you placed now in this moment? If you can hear me, I'm not quite sure. Okay, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he can hear us, but if I'm not wrong, he's in Nigeria.
Can I say something?
Perfect.
Yeah. Are you in Nigeria, Sam, right now?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Andreas, for that wonderful presentation, and also causing a whole lot of behavioral change in terms of how students relate to a lot of things, talking about more of sustainability and the like. So even though I joined late, but I also picked most of the discussions from where I joined, and listening to your conversations and how you interact with your students. Is really, really amazing. And then part of the things we do here in Nigeria is to educate students about climate change, and also to bring to their knowledge and practical life exercises and experiences they can relate with in addressing climate change issues, ranging from planting of trees, agroecology, quiz competitions, and also connecting them with their members of parliament to demand to act for climate justice. And we train them on policy and negotiations in that regards. And it's really been an awesome time in Nigeria, and hearing what you're doing as well strikes a lot of things that I can relate with in terms of engagement with students in classrooms. And apart from the classroom setting, but in the larger society, demanding for social change to happen, either swiftly or passively, or whichever way it occurs. But I'm just happy that I'm here today and I didn't miss out. And thank you so much for all you do, and really amazing discussions and amazing questions too, and how you answered them were really astonishing. And I hope to engage with you next time. Thank you.
Thank you all. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. If we could just really quickly turn on our cameras to have a picture of the session, I would really appreciate it. If whoever is able to turn on their cameras can do it really quickly, I'll just take a picture. Okay, there we have Philo, Drisha. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. There we go.